What if your intuition wasn't just a feeling? What if it showed up as holograms you could actually interact with? Today's guest, Tom Matt, came out of a dark night of the soul with a rare ability he calls upsight vision. And labs have recorded a distinct brain pattern while he uses it. We're talking precognition, practical reads for real life decisions, and a simple drill you can try tonight to strengthen your own perception. If you've ever felt like there's more to your intuition, you might be right. So let's dive into this episode. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, the show where we tackle the taboo topics of money and manifestation. I'm your host, Jenny Schultz, former 9-to-5 grinder who ditched the status quo and went all in on creating a life I love. Yes, I use manifestation. Yes, I took action. And yes, I created a 7-figure net worth before turning 40. Every week, I'll bring you inspiring stories with money mavens and manifestation masters. From learning how to make more, save more, and grow your wealth to unlocking the power of manifesting your dream life. I am so excited to play in this space with you. Let's jump into creating a life you love. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here today.
I am excited and curious to chat with you today. So I would love for you to share with the listeners just who you are and what your story is.
Okay, I sure will. Let me start by saying I have an ability, right? The reason I'm here, the reason most people are curious is because I have an ability that I acquired about 13 years ago coming out of a mental health crisis. And this ability I've labeled upsight vision. I've been tested by scientists, and there's an academic paper coming out soon. But to define this ability, is upsight vision is the ability to see and interact with these holographic images that appear to be everywhere around us. So typically when people hear that, they're like, are you sure about that? Is there, if that happened to me, I'd want to make sure there was nothing wrong with my brain. I would want to get an MRI and to see that there's no lesions or tumors or anything, stroke or anything. And of course, I did that. I, in fact, had 2 different MRIs, and there's nothing clinically or medically wrong with me, right? I came out of a mental health crisis 13 years ago. I was not born with this, right? It happened. Now, the mental health crisis is my dark night of the soul, right? It was a mental health crisis in 2012. And I wrote a book about it. It's about the 1 year of my life where I completely lost any connection to an objective reality. I lost my business. Temporarily lost my family. Thank God we're back together now. But I was addicted to cocaine, and it did something. I did something to my brain that I would have a thought, I would get a belief that it was true, and I would act on it. So needless to say, you can't go through life like that. So for 1 full year, it's almost to the date, I was in almost a psychotic episode, homeless. Like I said, left my family, left my business to check myself into a psych ward. The last time I used drugs was December 28th, 2012. And that was the first time I saw these images. Now, this is really wild about manifesting and thinking and the nature of the brain. Even though I was on drugs that time, I knew that I did not have to be on drugs to see these. It was this inner knowing. So I've been clean and sober for the last 13 years, or almost 13 years, and I wanted to find out where these holographic images were coming from, right? Sometimes, if you and I are having a conversation now, and I can't do this now, I could, but we don't want to. I turn my attention, I can look over, and it will be about, it could be about what we're talking about. Let's say if we were talking about cooking a pizza, it could in fact be a pizza being made. But just as easily, it could be an elephant riding a bike. Now, if it would make sense if it was about a pizza, but it would make less sense if it's riding a bike. Both of those things happen. In either case, once I lock in or tune into it, and let's say I see the elephant riding a bike and I wonder where did that come from? And then I'm like, didn't I just see a pizza? I realize that once I engage with it, there's almost this intelligent conversation, whatever this is, I can change these holograms. So I could make the bike riding elephant cook a pizza. I can drive a sports car. So there's this engagement, right? There's this back and forth where whatever this is, and I've come to find out some of these come from other people. We'll get to that in a minute. And that's what I do for a living. I connect with people and read these holograms. But, that's where they come from I have no idea where these ones that are floating around are. And
Mhm.
I'll say one other thing and then I'll pause to let you ask questions. A lot of people say, is it a vivid mind's eye? Isn't that just an act of imagination? And the answer is definitively no. I had that. I owned an ad agency for 20 years, so I know what that is. This is not that. Because if I was driving a car, right? If you and I were in the car and I was driving and you said, "Oh, do you remember the Star Wars poster?" I could think about that and I could have a conversation with you about it while I drove the car, my motor skills. If I'm looking with upside vision, I would get in a wreck because I have to lock into this image. Not only that, not only the motor skills, but my eyes get tired, just like watching a movie. My pupils dilate and retract. They change shape when something is arousing or exciting. And then there's something called smooth pursuit eye movements, where you follow something across the screen. You've done that in the doctor's office, most people. You can't fake that, right? So if I'm looking at a wall that everyone else thinks is empty or invisible, right? And there was a jaguar that I'd see in a hologram running across it, they can track my eyes, right? They can track my eyes. So that's how we knew it was external. I went to the Institute of Noetic Sciences. They hooked up my brain to this EEG machine, and we didn't do any of those things. We measured brain waves against those two states. So that's why I'm here. Interesting topic. I'll pause because, like I told you earlier, I can go on about this, but yeah, that's why I'm here.
Fascinating. So, yeah, so many questions that come up. So, I'm like, which way do I take this? Because to me, listening for the first time, hearing about this, it's almost like you have a psychic ability. You're able to interact with these images. Am I understanding that right? Like you are putting thought into them, but they're also whoever, whatever, and I'll let you define what that is you're interacting with is also morphing the images from their side as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like let's use the word biofield or plasma field,
Okay.
right? Sometimes, so again, there's an intelligence that I have this exchange of knowledge with. That's with the plasma field, right? This, whatever this is. Now, obviously, I think it's coming from somewhere, but I don't know where. And whatever it is, it's intelligent. That's one way. But I've learned, and this year, even though, God, it took me a long time to accept that I could do this, but sometimes I'm in an elevator, I will, have a thought and somebody will start talking about that. So I'm picking up these things, but I've almost like that was eavesdropping in this space. I've learned if I have permission, they invite me in and say, it's okay to look. I can tap into this I do it at 5 minutes a time. We do readings. It's almost like a waking dream state, right? So it's like I'm a waking dream analysis. I can't read your mind. It's not like you can't think of an animal and I can see it. That doesn't happen. It's not your deepest, darkest secrets. That doesn't happen. It's this middle ground. It's almost like a place. Well, I'll use the word dream, right? Because some of the things I see, well, they're all dreamlike. There's nothing static and everything moves. But some of them are extraordinary for the people I engage with, but some of them are also mundane, just like our dreams. We do evaluations and it's kind of fun. I say like I'm the IKEA furniture of this space. I can give you the tools, I give you the furniture, but after we have a session, there's work to be done, and you can do it with a therapist, a friend, a mentor, a husband, wife, it doesn't matter. You can talk about it with someone else because at the end of the session, there's definitely still work needs to be done. More than likely, that typically happens. And I've done them for the last 7 months now this year, and it's taken off like crazy. I'm more excited than I could be about doing this with people, helping them. And there is a value. 99% of the time, people find value in it and they enjoy it.
Yeah. And even just the intrigue part, I'm sure draws people in. So when you're sitting down with somebody and you're seeing things, are you explaining to them what you're seeing? And then do people either relate with what they're seeing or and can connect and be like, okay, that makes sense for me? Or do you see things and people are like, I have no idea what that means?
Great question. And here's the thing too, and this is another reason it took me a minute to accept that or to realize how to do it with other people. Remember, I said I can engage it. So once it's there, if I think is that an elephant, I can become an elephant when I see other people's. And by the way, it's just like a voice, a timbre, like somebody's voice. I know my voice, I know your voice. So
Mhm.
I know it's your voice. This is the same thing. I know it could be somebody else's hiding around the corner, but that would be weird, right? I know it's yours that I'm seeing, and I just see it as it appears. Literally literally just see it without any editorial. I try not to editorialize. Mostly I don't, unless something seems important. Now, to answer your question specifically, most of the time, like I say, 90% of the time, well, maybe 85% of the time, the reads are. But if one read doesn't make sense to someone instantly, that by the end of the session, like, wait, you know what? Earlier we talked about this. That reminds me of this. They're overwhelmingly positive and relatable for the person in the time we're doing it. Sometimes it doesn't. Make no mistake. Sometimes they're like people are put their hands up and like don't understand it. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means they need to think about it more, right?
Mhm.
I had a woman come back to me a month later and she said, "You know this what the thing you saw. This is going to blow your mind. This is going to blow your mind." Because when I got the email, it blew my mind. She goes, "You know the thing you saw where the balloon came down on my car or came down on a car and it, and I reached out and grabbed it." She was driving home from work and it was a red balloon. And a red balloon started going to come down on our car and it landed on our car just like I'd seen. Right. So there's like this precog element. I can't make that
Mm,
happen. Right. I don't know if the
mm.
universe knows quantum entanglement. I don't know how the universe knows this stuff, but those things happen all the time. Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
there, it's pretty wild.
Fascinating. And I can relate to you on that because I do get precognition from time to time where I just know things or I see things and then it plays out in the future. But yeah, you don't know where that comes from. You don't have like, if somebody asked me, I'd be like, I have no idea how I know that. I just saw this thing or I know this thing and I saw it in my head. And for you, you're seeing these things play out as a holographic image in
Right.
front of you. When you're dealing with people and seeing these things, do you feel intuitively that you have insights that come through that you're seeing this thing and, oh, hey, if I tell this person this piece of information, it can help them with their life or with this thing they're struggling with or with this choices they have to make?
That's exactly what the goal is of this. Somehow get them unstuck, help them kind of think about a decision, maybe think about it in a new way they haven't thought about it before,
Mhm.
right? Let me give you kind of two examples, one relationship and one business. Guy was doing a business deal, and this is important too because although these things are clear and in focus, right? That doesn't mean they're true. I want to be very, very, very clear. It's like a dream is not true. But it does, but there's also a part of you that's thinking about this unconsciously or at some level. Anyway, he was about to do a business deal. There was a man below him cutting his shoes with scissors, right? And later in like in a minute later, he walked around and he's at a board meeting with this guy, the same person, right? I was like, oh, there's a man. Though this man just was in a board meeting. So we're done with the reading. He's like, I know who that is. That's a guy. I'm like, time out. We don't know who that is. You think, right? It could be the person, but obviously you have something about them, or there's a reason this is coming through. I certainly would not accuse this person of, sabotaging a deal. You think that's not the move. The move is think about it. Now, to your point, all because the visual is there is one thing. That feeling is as important. So he had an emotional response right away. Sit with this a week later if you are thinking about it again or something comes up, you feel it again. It's probably worth mentioning it to somebody, not saying you had a reading or something, but hey, listen, are you sure about this, deal does this make sense to you? More than likely that person is going to say, I'm having second thoughts about it, whatever. And a lot of time this guy was doing another, actually, this is not the business one, but it's a personal relationship one too. He was talking about the deal. He wanted to know. And you can come with an intention, wanting to know something. That's great. But the universe is going to show us what it shows us, right? But it's good to have an intention. He wanted to know certain things about business, and his wife kept coming in for each reading. And I'm like, and he's like, well, why is she showing up? Because I'm concerned about this deal. I'm like, there's something there that, yeah, this is like therapy time now. There's something there you might want to look at because she might have some wisdom you haven't thought about. She might not want this deal to go. There's so many variables, but clearly him saying she shouldn't be coming in, not clearly, but more than likely there's something there that should be looked at and it could help with the deal. Maybe it's not right time for the deal. So that's what I mean. Work needs to be done. The other thing is the feeling around it. I want to reiterate that. So this happens, you get a feeling. If a month later you're thinking about the reading and some synchronistic event comes up, something comes up and you feel really good about it, that's where you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe we should move to Hawaii. Maybe really, even though it's a little bit scary, but it feels good. I mean, all these synchronistic events happen, but you know the universe is saying, hey, pay attention and do this. Kind of like manifesting, actually. You know, that's the beautiful thing about what you do. There's this manifesting element to this too, which we can speak to in a minute.
Sure. Yeah. I, so when you said the guy who brought his wife along, she was in the images. She wasn't actually sitting in the
No,
room
no,
in session with
exactly.
you.
Right, right. She
Okay.
was in some part of his thing and he didn't want to address that. It's like, man, you know what? There's something there. Right? That's almost like 101, right? If you've had any classes, there's something there that you want to address that probably needs to be addressed. Those things come in all the time. You know, fears and stuff like that. Tons of symbolism. Right? There was a brief period where Mary Poppins would show up, an archetype, right? The nanny. And I was like, wow, this is wild. I'm thinking, did this carry over? But no, it made sense. Everyone that it's come up with was a parent, right? I thought the one person wasn't, but they're like, no, I'm a parent. So these things come in. Archer, symbolism again, Scorpio, some signs of constellations. Sometimes tarot cards show up. It is literally different with every single person. And that's what makes it fun for me. You know,
Yeah.
I never know what's going to show up.
Yeah. What a unique gift because you are seeing in a sense similar to the way psychics see things and get symbols and pictures that have similar meanings and those kind of repetitively show up through clients. So you're seeing similarities in symbols like that.
Yeah, I'm seeing something that's radiating from them through quantum entanglement. I can't pretend to tell you the science, right? I can't. I don't understand it. Whether you're next to me or 300 miles away or 3,000 miles away, it works, right?
Mhm.
Now, speaking of the science, though, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, they're the people that did, I went out there in 2023 and the paper is just coming out later this year. It takes speed of academia, it takes forever. They measured my brain states against the memory recall and the holograms. But that's not what I do with people, but that's what the science is around, making sure they wanted to make sure the EEG was showing a change in the brain states, alpha, gamma, beta, theta, across those, or they were curious which ones it would show. And they showed them theta, which is typically with mediums, right? That was an obvious one. But the wild one from my perspective is the alpha brain state. That's like the resting brain state. While I'm seeing these holograms, it is working hard. There's a lot of work going on in the left prefrontal area of the brain. I can't remember the specific name. And I even wrote a blog post, is upside vision a psychic ability? I call it untapped human potential, right? I mean, it's not remote viewing, it's not lucid dreaming, it's not telepathy, but clearly there's elements about, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's some kind of psi ability. And I'll say one other
Yeah.
thing before we can ask a question. Trying to get all this information. As I talk about this in podcasts, people email me saying, I have this, right?
Mhm.
They have it to one degree or another. And I wrote a PDF and it's free. You can get it on my website, The 8 Stages of Upside Vision. Because they may not have it to the degree I do. I liken it to singing. Everybody can sing, but everybody can't be Adele or Frank Sinatra. But you know, they do. So that's free to see if you think you have it. Probably you do. And maybe if we trained this and people were less afraid of it and it wasn't shunned and scorned and mocked and all these things, we would be farther along with this. Because I think there's a
Mhm.
communication element to this. I don't think, I know, obviously.
Yeah. And I like this is the first time I have had somebody on the show speaking about this because when I came across you, I was like, oh, this is fascinating. I want to know more. But I think realistically, we all have access to abilities and how they show up to different people. In those moments where we can allow ourselves to get quiet, you just seem to have a direct link somehow. You have this direct line to be able to connect with this intuition or whatever these bigger things are. I think we all have the ability to do that on some level. We just,
I do
not all
too.
of us see it.
And yeah, and so when I first started talking about this, I was thought the people that would come forward, because I knew I wasn't the only one, right? I just knew. I would think somebody that's in recovery that did drugs and changed the, wiring of their brain. Well, that's not the thread, right? The thread to, I would say to a man or woman, but it's every one or two people didn't say this. And I've got thousands of names. Trauma. Something happened, physical, emotional, psychological, some kind of trauma happened, something broke open in people, and this developed and evolved. So that's the thread. So, yeah, sitting quiet, accepting that you have this and trusting it, and whatever it is, to your point, to my point, whatever. For me, it's like this. But for other people, it's this to some degree or another. And for other people, it's not even this, it's other abilities that are extraordinary, not typical. And listen, with our world environment changing, Really, I think more people now, pole shifts, forever chemicals, all these things inside of us, vaccines and stuff, something is changing. And I think people are like, okay, maybe it's time to pay attention to things we've dismissed and mocked over the years. Listen, I am, when somebody comes forward, because this happened to me, I mean, this isn't what I did. I was an addict, I was a business person. I would have 20 years ago have said, maybe. Now, if somebody comes to me, I'm like, tell me your story. I know, I'm sure I believe you, whatever it is. And if they're, I haven't had, I don't know if anyone's been lying to me, but I'm all ears. I'm curious about people's stories.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like in the media, we get sold certain things that they want us to hear, they want us to know. Whereas to sit down and hear somebody's story, yeah, like you said, somebody could make up a story, but you're getting a truer experience. But when we can sit down with the curiosity, and that's one thing I love about podcasts, is to getting to dig into hearing people's stories. It's a different outlet that we get to experience.
Definitely. And, whether people are telling the truth, there's this intuitive element. And, women say they have this intuitive, that's like a cliche. But here's the wild thing. Many of my clients are successful female business owners. And
Mm.
that blew my mind. They just know. They're like, of course. They're like, well, we're behind the curve. I mean, it's like with respect, they're like, of course this is true. I'm curious. This is how it manifests for me. I want to hear what you see. And then the other people who have a lot of clients are musicians and talented creative people. That one makes sense, right? Well, they both make sense, but the fact that it's happening like that is wonderful. And I can tell after a while if people are BSing. You know what I mean? It's the sixth sense when you're in a room with them, I could feel it, their energy. But a
Mhm.
lot of people have that.
Yeah, I have a sixth sense with it because I have a 5-year-old in my house. So
Oh,
she's teaching me through and through. I'm like, no, no. She's like, well, how do you know? I'm like, I just know. I
of
just know.
course, even by a look, no words, you're like, okay, you just did mischief. You've done something. You're right,
Yeah,
so word, you're like, yeah.
yeah,
And then the whole mom thing, all right, tell me what you did. And they're like, wait, how do you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
How do you know? Like, I
right.
just do. And you'd mentioned something earlier. You wanted a link to manifestation that you wanted to chat on.
So a lot of people say, do I teach this? And the answer is no, right? I don't because I've not mastered it, right? That's why I don't want to teach till I master it. That said, I can give one way to see if you might have it, right? There's something called the hypnagogic hallucination. And it's right before you fall asleep, that waking dream state, everyone goes in. And a lot of creative ideas were found here. A lot of discoveries and inventions were found in this space. If you want to try it, if you have it, sit on the end of the couch and you're going to have to meditate for a minute. And you can think in the back of your mind, you can use your mind's eye to start with this. Let's say imagine an island with a palm tree, right? That's where it starts. If you can take that and put it out here, right? That's the first step. If all of a sudden you see this in front of you like a hologram, that's you're there. If you can change it to have a guy sitting on it, wow, you're off to the races. And then there's comes a conversation with it. There's a download of intelligence, but that's the first thing. And manifesting successful life, right? Manifesting financial rewards, right? I feel I use this without a doubt to see a successful financial future, whatever scale you want to call that. And I feel it too, not just see it. That's the key. I can see it without feeling, but I see it and I see myself in, let's say, if I want to go to England or Hawaii, I see myself there with my wife and I feel it. I'm like, that's going to happen. Like I know that's going to happen because sometimes I see it, I'm like, nah, I'm not interested in that one. So the seeing and followed by the feeling, that's what, from my perspective, the manifesting of making it happen in our 3D world where we live now.
Mhm. Neat. And that's so true. Getting clear about what you want and then having the feelings, embodying the feelings of that is a huge link in manifestation. So it's just neat that you have a unique way of the seeing piece of that equation.
Yeah, I agree. And it is unique. And I feel blessed. Look, it was tough. The dark night of the soul, wouldn't want to go back. I wouldn't want to go through it again. But so it's so in the past. When I first started talking about it, I talked about addiction recovery, mental health, but it's so long ago. Now it's like totally talking about all these extraordinary things that have come out of that terrible, terrible place. And if anyone, I always say this, I try to say, if anyone's going through anything like that, happens to be hearing this now, if I can get through it, you can get through it. I just want to give
Mhm.
those words of hope if anyone's listening that is in a weird place they don't want to be.
Yeah. And on that note, what would be your biggest piece of advice for somebody who is wanting to raise the bar and go out and create a life they love?
Get clean. Well, honestly, if you're in recovery, get clean and sober. You know what? Just definitely get help from other people. Without a doubt, get help from other people. Get clean and sober. If you want to go to meetings, it's a good place to start. But if you're past that stage, right? I don't know. I think I am all about coaches. I am absolutely about lifestyle coaches. I say I'm a one and done. I absolutely say that. Don't make no mistake. People come back every couple of months, but I say that, right? The IKEA furniture, the radiologist, let's see what's there. But after this, go to someone else. Getting advice and finding a trusted advisor is huge. And I did that when I first came out of it. I absolutely found it somebody I trusted. So finding someone that you can trust is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say this has been such a fun, unique conversation on the podcast today. And I would love for you to share where listeners can reach out and catch more of you and carry on this conversation.
Yeah, if my website is tom-matte.com, or if you Google Upside Vision, trust me, I'm the only one that comes up. Upside Vision and my name, Tom Matt, but my Instagram is I See Things You Don't. Those are the two best places to find me. Yeah, either Instagram or the website. And you can check out, see if you want to see a session or just find more information. I have an FAQ section. You sign up for download the free PDF, find out more about that, and you'll get on a mailing list. If you are interested about the science and updates on this, I send stuff out every month. Again, this is still so in the beginning stages of this, but something is happening, and I'm here for it. Okay.
Thanks for sharing, Tom, and thanks for joining me on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for hanging out with me on the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you're ready to take your manifesting to the next level, come join me inside the Manifestation Playground. It's an intentional space I've created to explore, experiment, and expand your manifestation potential. It's where the magic happens. So head on over to www.manifestationplayground.ca to find out more. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep taking aligned action. Cheers to creating a life you love.